What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Knicks with my friend and co-host Dylan Backer, and we're doing report cards to the Knicks. The season's over, obviously, so, we finally got postseason and regular season results all concluded, and we're going to start off with guards. We're going to go in numeric order here in terms of, position groups, so your 1 and your 2s obviously are going to come first, and, this is a position that, a couple years ago, we would say the Knicks need a lot of improving in, and, with the emergence of Immanuel Quickley, not that he wasn't good before, but he's really stepped it up, over the past year, and the addition of Jalen Brunson, the Knicks guard position is about as talented as it gets, right? So, this is probably the best guard room they've had in my lifetime. So, with that being said, a lot of positives we're going to be able to talk about. We'll cover some of the other guys, some of the depth guys, and, some of the guys that factor into those roles in the season. But with that being said, I guess the first guy we have to talk about is Jalen Brunson. And Dylan, I want to know, what's your letter grade for him? I imagine it's going to be pretty high. Your overall thoughts on the Jalen Brunson experience this season.
Right, so, just to kick things off, the grade I'm going to give for Brunson, A++. I mean, he was phenomenal, to say the least. I mean, we signed him to this contract in the offseason, and, we were hoping he would just be, a good point guard, a good one at that. We didn't expect anything crazy. Did anyone here really expect him to average 24 points, 3.5 rebounds, 6.2 assists, shoot 49% from the field, 41% from three, all that stuff? I don't think a lot of us had that in the books, and he did just that this season. I mean, me personally coming to the season, I expected him to, get us a solid 20 points a game. He was an ascending player, so I expected him to be a little more involved in the offense than he was in Dallas because he wasn't playing alongside Luka Doncic. He was becoming the main point guard on the Knicks, and that he knew that was his role coming into the season. But 24 points and all that stuff, I mean, that just blew away my expectations completely. And in the playoffs, he averaged nearly 30 points as well and continued to show off what he can do when the lights get brighter. I mean, he was phenomenal. I mean, people are already saying he's one of the best free agent signings, not just in franchise history, but in league history. I mean, we got him for a bargain, and he's playing out of his mind. I mean, and he's only going to get better. I mean, he's only, 25, 26 years old? He's not very old, so he's going to get better as time goes on. I mean, I'm really looking forward to, what he can do as, time progresses. I mean, we still got 3 more years on his contract, but I mean, at this rate, you might need to keep Brunson around for a while, like a long time. Like, you might need to make him the franchise centerpiece and build around him. I mean, the way he performed this season absolutely blew out my expectations. Couldn't have expected this season whatsoever. Nearly made the All-Star team. Should have made the All-Star team, I should say. Almost made All-NBA first season with the Knicks. I mean, it's just refreshing that the Knicks have a good point guard this time around. We haven't had a good point guard in a very long time, like a very long time. You could argue we didn't even have one during the Melo days, and right now we have Jalen Brunson as our point guard, who has very quickly elevated himself into a top 5 point guard, one of the best guards really in the league, one of the best pure scorers in the NBA, and one of the best clutch performers in the NBA. It's a blessing really to have a player like that. And, I'm really happy with what his performance was this year. I mean, you really couldn't have asked for more out of him. You really couldn't have. You wish that, his contributions would have, helped us get to an Eastern Conference Finals or even an NBA Finals. Unfortunately, it didn't, but it is far from Brunson's fault. Brunson did his thing. Brunson got us to where we were this season. We probably are not in this position whatsoever without him. So, really just very happy with what he did this season. What do you think? What is your thoughts on Brunson?
Yeah, I fully agree. Jalen Brunson finished this season, not just in traditional metrics, but in advanced metrics as well, as one of the 20 or 25 best players in the NBA, right? And that's not even counting an incredible postseason. I've mentioned this before, whether it's us just talking in passing, when we're not recording, or, just seeing this take with people on the internet and people I talk to, there aren't that many playoff risers. Guys typically get worse in the postseason. And that's not something that is, a way to diss other people, but there's better defenses, better opponents. Again, you're not going to face the Charlotte Hornets or the Houston Rockets and get to feast on them for 40 points in a very efficient game. You're facing the best teams in the NBA, and despite that, Jalen Brunson was better in the postseason than he was in the regular season. He was excellent in the regular season. I thought he was 100% deserving of an All-Star nod. I thought if he played a little bit more, he would have definitely gotten more All-NBA consideration. He was really good. And you mentioned it's a tough position. Point guard is not a position that's lacking in talent. I could go on and on about the, just the myriad of elite players, that play that position, right? If we're talking, best players in the world, right? You could argue that that discussion typically comes from wings, yes, but point guards. You got Steph Curry, you've got Luka Doncic, you have SGA, Kyrie, Dame. There are guys we probably just completely forgot to mention. But my point is, it's a very talented position. So getting a good point guard is important, and for Jalen Brunson to stick out in a position that's so talented and so rich in excellent scoring options is amazing, right? Jalen Brunson not only added more offense to this team, he helped space the floor. He's a great shooting great 3-point shooter. I know it's on lower volume, but his efficiency is good. The floater, it felt like that was automatic, right? Anytime he went to go for that floater, I was like, all right, yeah, that shot's going in. And it's hard for small guards to be efficient, and even more difficult in the postseason. Again, he's a smaller guy, not even just smaller guy because he's a guard. He's small relative to his position as well. And he was above average in efficiency this year. He was last year as well. He's only continued to get better. And you mentioned his youth. That's only going to help him because he's in his prime right now, right? And I view him as a co-star on a championship team. I don't view him no longer as a, good player on a good playoff team. I viewed him pretty highly coming into the season, and he exceeded my expectations. So that tells you something, because I was all on the Jalen Brunson hype train. I thought it was a great move when they signed him, and it's been even better than I can expect. So A+. There's not A++. Throw as many pluses as you want, guys. He was just that good this year. He was Knicks' best player this season in the regular and postseason combined. And quite frankly, I couldn't be happier with what we got from him. But, another guy, another guard who really stepped up and was a huge reason why this team was so good. I'd argue he was the Knicks' third best player this year. That was Immanuel Quickley, right? Immanuel Quickley, of course, just came short of winning a Sixth Man of the Year. Arguably should have won it, but again, not too mad that Malcolm Brogdon won it, right? It's not one of those situations where you feel like he was robbed or anything. But Quickley was excellent this year. I know the postseason wasn't great for him, but in the regular season, there were points in times where Brunson was hurt. There was that scare with his foot earlier in the season where you're like, oh my God, we're going to lose Jalen Brunson for an extended period of time. And Quickley goes out, then he balls out, right? He drops 40 against the Celtics without Brunson in the mix. He had some huge shooting performances. He was a great defender this year as well. Arguably our best defender in the postseason too, outside of maybe Mitch, right? He was excellent defensively all year. That never wavered. But, if I'm giving you a letter grade on Immanuel Quickley, I'm giving him an A+, right? I think relative to expectations, considering the role he plays, he played the role about as well as you can play it. Again, he's a sixth man. He was arguably the best sixth man in basketball. So I think I have to give him an A+, but I want to see your perspective and hear your takes on Immanuel Quickley this year.
Right. So, first off, Quickley was great this year. I was really pleased with what he did. He stepped up to the challenge, after a slow start and, got himself to that six-man conversation, almost won it. So my grade for him, it's going to be an A. And the reason I give it an A is because he started the season a little slow. First 2 months of the season, you were kind of worried about it because he had regressed pretty bad. Trade conversations started to come up. It was a concern. It was a legit concern. He really didn't start to get going until in the middle of that big 9-game win streak we had, in December. That was when he really started to get going, right? But after that, he was amazing. If this was a December to April grade, this would be an A+. But because it's the full season, I gotta, not just ignore the fact that he started a little slow and the fact that he was also a little slow in the postseason. I can't just ignore that. That's why I give him an A, but that is still a phenomenal grade. I would say at least. Overall this season, he averaged 14 points, 4.2 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 44% from the field, almost 40% from three. Great season, really great season. I was really pleased with his performance. Something that really, got me really good about him is that the versatility. We were questioning what kind of versatility he could have, playing the point guard or the shooting guard. We weren't sure what he could do. We weren't sure where his future would lie, because with Brunson around, you were like, okay, well, he can't play point guard now anytime soon for the Knicks, so what's he going to be able to do, He kind of showed, though, that he can be versatile and kind of play both guard spots effectively. He can run the point guard effectively and be a decent playmaker. And if you need him to play the shooting guard, he can do that. He can slot in, play good defense, be a good spot up scorer, just be a good secondary option. And I was really impressed with that. That was something that really impressed me. Something else that impressed me overall with this game this year, his finishing improved. Before his first 2 seasons, you kind of relied on him to shoot the ball quite a lot. Sometimes it was topsy-turvy. Sometimes he would not miss. Other times he would, fall into a big rut where you couldn't really buy a bucket. He was able to expand his game a little bit this year, though, become more involved in the finishing department, get inside more, use those floaters more. He was getting that floater a lot, and it was really working for him. So I was really pleased with that. I was pleased with his more aggressiveness, his willing to adjust his game a little bit to kind of help with the flow of the offense, and just the energy he brings. The energy and pace. Anytime he would come on the floor, the offense would move quicker. The ball would be flying a lot more. Shots were getting up quicker. I like that. I really like that. And of course, the defense. He floor raises defensively. When he's out there, defense is so much better. He was probably one of our best perimeter defenders this season. So just overall, really pleased with his performance. Yeah, I didn't give him an A+, and I'm sure some Knicks fans might be like, why didn't you give him an A+? He was great. He was a six-man finalist. Yeah, I understand that. And I would have given him an A+, like I said. If this was a December to now rating, then yeah, he would get an A+. But because he started off a little slow, I had to give him the A. But I gave him the A because, he answered the challenge. He stepped up when he needed to, and I was really happy with that. Those are my thoughts on it. What do you think about that?
I actually did think that you kind of talked me into changing my answer into an A, kind of considering, again, the slow start. And then factoring the posting a little bit, I think that should hurt your grade a little bit. And I'm going to reserve that A+ for Jalen Brunson because I think best player on the team gets the best grade. No one else should get a grade equal to the best player on the team. So I think an A is a good grade for him. And also it's kind of hard to be an A+ player and not play as much as Jalen Brunson. So I definitely think that, an A grade's a little more fair here. I think that you make a lot of sense there. Quickly again, he was awesome. I'm not saying like the A+ thing to like say like actually Quickly was worse than I remember. It's more so just like from a standpoint of if I'm going to give one guy the A+, it's got to be the best player on the team. I can't give everyone else an A+. So A is a good grade. A is an amazing grade. But with that being said, there are a couple of other guys, on the guard side of the things that, through different points in the season played various roles, right? The most prominent one of the bunch was probably Miles McBride, right? He was, someone who was playing a role on the team last year, got minutes occasionally. Sometimes he was factored out of the rotation. Sometimes he was brought back in, depending on the injury situation. He's someone who's kind of interesting in the sense of, on paper, again, like in terms of net rating and all those numbers, right? He's a net positive for the Knicks, but he's so bad offensively that you feel like you can't trot him out there for large stretches of the game, or else you're gonna get run off the court by like really good teams. So Miles McBride's an interesting player to grade because he didn't play a lot. Again, bench player. And number two, when he played, yes, he was a positive, but you kind of have to limit him to a smaller role in order for him to be a positive. Like, what grade are you giving him? Because I'm seeing like a C+ B-ish type of grade. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, it's tough to grade guys that didn't really play a whole lot and guys that didn't have large roles. But McBride did play a fair share amount of games and for quite a while was a main part of the rotation up until we got Josh Hart. So I think it is fair to us to give him a grade. My grade's going to be a B-, and that may be a little generous, but the thing that really catches my eye is the defense. Anytime he was out there, the defense was great. And quite frankly, for about the 2 months that we had the rotation changed, where we put McBride back in and sat Derrick Rose, up until we got Josh Hart and McBride was a main member of the rotation, the defense was great. I mean, I don't think you can really underestimate that. The defense was great when he was out there. Obviously, he's not a perfect defender. I'm not saying that. He is an undersized guard, but given that, he played very well defensively, and I think he contributed a lot to, just the better energy on that side of the floor for those couple months, and I don't think that can really get overlooked. I know McBride didn't play a whole lot of minutes, and I know offensively he's pretty limited, but given what his role was, I thought he did pretty well in it. Obviously, he still has time to improve, but, I can't, knock on the guy for, getting a limited role. Just doing what he did was, you live with it, Obviously, you're not going to get perfect results out of him 100% of the time. No, but I don't think his performance was necessarily bad. Obviously offensively, yeah, it was bad. I'm just gonna be honest, it was bad. But defensively, it was that much of a difference maker that he earned some extra grade points for me. Obviously, I'm not going to give him an A. I'm not going to be that generous, but I think a B- is fair. If you said a C+ or something, that's also fair. I was kind of debating myself between those two, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. What do you think? What would you say?
Yeah, I think, B-, C+, kind of in that range is a good range. Again, net positive, but we have to adjust for a couple of things. Again, offense, volume, just the fact that you can't play him that much because of the fact he's such a liability on offense. But he's a guy I think can improve next year. If that three-point shot is league average next year, even on low volume, suddenly we go from liability on offense to still not very good on offense, but playable, right? And considering that, there are going to be some opened up minutes. You don't know what the future for Toppin looks like. Even in the guard situation, the Knicks may try to throw out more defensive oriented lineups, in certain situations. McBride definitely has an opportunity to earn himself some minutes. I think he's earned himself a third year to, prove himself a little bit more. But it all relies on that 3-point shot. Is he going to be a solid every now and then insert plug and play situational player? Or is he going to be a consistent, rotational guy? That all comes down to that 3-point shot. So I think that B- C+ grade, kind of that range, is where I'd sit at. So I agree with you there. But the next two guys, Evan Fournier and Derrick Rose, unlike McBride, McBride, did not play a lot of minutes, but these guys didn't play a lot really to end the year. Fournier was kind of just the guy they threw in whenever they were super shorthanded, and Rose was the guy they would bring in for some minutes to, if MSG was chanting loud enough and, they were up by enough points, they would bring him in. Neither guy, really performed well. There's a reason why they didn't play, right? When the Knicks took them out of the rotation, they played a lot better. But, I have to give them credit for being, veterans and being professional about it. Fournier never really complained about the fact he was kind of just in and out of the lineup whenever the Knicks decided they needed him or not needed him. And Rose was cool about just being on the bench, right? And being a veteran on this team. So, I'm not good in terms of performance. The grade's going to be like a D something, or, it can't be good, right? But in terms of just being, a good teammate, I feel like they did an excellent job doing that. What are your thoughts on those two guys after this season?
Right, so, like you said, they didn't play, so obviously it's more fair to just kind of assess both of them at the same time here instead of separating the two. Obviously, like, their play, it was like a D or a D+. It wasn't very good play. There's a reason why they were taken out of the rotation. It's, that it just wasn't working. But professional wise, I was happy that they weren't like complaining about it. They weren't like causing any unnecessary drama about it. They accepted the situation. They accepted the fate that they had on this team. They accepted what was going on. They knew that Tibbs wants to make this team better, and they were okay with that. Obviously, they both want to play. No NBA player wants to sit on the bench and not play, but they were at least being professional about it, and they knew that the whole reason they were out of the rotation is for the betterment of the team. And, it ended up working. Decisions ended up working. We ended up making the playoffs and all that stuff. But it's not going to be a long assessment of me here talking about these two, because obviously they didn't really play. But, I will give an extra, step up to Fournier here, because whenever someone was hurt or sick or something, or we didn't have a player, Fournier did step up. And sure, he didn't do amazing. I know he had the one game against Philly where he did good. We'll always remember the Evan Fournier game from this year. But, he obviously didn't do a whole lot in that, but at least he came up to the challenge. He was always available. It was almost never a time he wasn't available to come in and just fill in that spot. So I'll give him that. As for someone that wasn't playing but that was still willing to do that, I respect that. Some players don't like that at all and will say, nope, I want to get out of here. I want to get traded. Don't play me at all. Don't even think about putting me on the court. I respect that stuff. I respect it. And Derrick Rose, he's a veteran. Unfortunately, his time might be coming up soon. It looks like his knees are catching up to him a little bit. It's unfortunate. I really like Derrick Rose as much as the next guy, but just happy that he was able to stick around and, be professional about it and be a good veteran and be a good mentor to these younger guys, because obviously this team is very young, so they need a veteran like that, just at least on the bench or, in the locker room. Really, I'm just happy that was the case. I'm obviously not going to, give them too hard of analysis on their play just because they didn't play a whole lot, and there's a reason they didn't play a whole lot, but with their professionalism and stuff like that, I respect that. So that's my kind of thoughts on it. What do you think?
Yeah, end of the day, like, it's hard to give a letter grade again to guys who, like, were taken out of the lineup because they couldn't perform on this team reliably. But, again, you're not going to be like too harsh on them because they were professionals about it. And, if the Knicks needed Rose, I imagine that he would have been okay even playing just one game and not playing again. And Fournier did that. And he did that at, was he necessarily great when he played? No, but, the Knicks sometimes just need a body out there, right? Basketball's not a sport where you can go out there and just throw a guy out for 48 minutes in the regular season, right? So, end of the day, I can't be too mad at them. It is what it is with their situations. I imagine Rose is gone after this season. I imagine Fournier, whether it's in free agency next year, when the Knicks decline his option, or potentially use him as a filler in a trade. I think that there is a team that might take a flyer on him, in a big deal if the Knicks want to move some money around, they want to match money, because end of the day, like, if he can shoot a little bit, a team's going to give you a couple seconds for him. Like, Jay Crowder got like 4 second round picks. I don't think I get 4 second round picks for Evan Fournier, but if you're like, I don't know, like Charlotte or something like that, and you get him as a salary filler in a deal, and he shoots decently for you, you're going to get a second round pick or two, which is better than nothing. So, we'll see there. But, that really wraps up, I think, a lot of the guard situation, right? The Knicks, not that, again, in basketball in general, you're not going to carry like 7 or 8 guards. So it's, not a lot to talk about. And a lot of the focus is obviously going to be on Quickley and Brunson. But overall, I'd say the position was a positive, right? You can't feel anything other than good, I think, about this guard depth. You're going to really look at Brunson and Quickley to be your primary point guards on the starting lineup in the second unit. We'll see how McBride fits into things. Obviously technically on paper, right? Quentin Grimes is a guard and Josh Hart technically on paper at times was a guard, but we're going to include them in the wings episode. So no, we did not forget them. We're just including them with the wings. But with that being said, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to be doing wings next. We're going to section these off into different episodes so that we don't have 1 2-hour episode. But with that being said, we appreciate you guys' continued support. We just hit 500 subscribers, and that's because of you guys. So we wanted to extend our thanks. Make sure to check us out on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and of course this YouTube page. If you want to listen to the audio version of this episode, make sure to go on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. And if you are, make sure you drop us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you guys again so much, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.